Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name's Meg. I'm here from Power to Fly. I am part of the Power to Fly team. I work on delivery and marketing for them. In case you are new to our chat and learns, or if you are an old hand, either way, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you will enjoy this afternoon just as much as we do. I really look forward to hosting these with you guys, and I'm really excited to dig in with Ronit today. So, without further ado, we do have a quick housekeeping slide for you guys. Again, this will be familiar to anybody who's joined us before, but for anybody that's new, the whole key to these events is participation. We put these on for the benefit of you, our community members, and we want to make sure that it is easy for you to participate as possible. So you're more than welcome to turn your cameras on or come off mute to ask questions. No pressure if you don't feel like you want to. You can also write any questions in the Zoom chat. You can also message me privately if you would prefer to remain anonymous. I'm going to change my name here so that way you can see me. You can just find Meg in the dropdown. Power to Fly. All right, so that's been changed. Just as a quick reminder, today's session is being recorded, so don't feel like you have to take feverish notes on anything. We will send out a link so you can rewatch this today's chat anytime you'd like. That link will go out probably sometime tomorrow or maybe early on Wednesday, or sorry, early on Thursday. And included with that email that we're going to send you with the rewatch link, there will be a survey. We really, really appreciate if you guys take that. It doesn't take long, it's like 2 minutes max, but it's how we make changes to our chat and learn format so that you guys get as much out of it as the amount of like work and love and stuff that we put into it on the backside. So yeah, so for anybody else that is just joining us, I'm going to leave this housekeeping slide up for a minute while I finish off the rest of our little tasks. Just an FYI, if you do want to come off mute to ask questions, again, we highly encourage it. Just try and make sure that when you're not talking or once your question has been asked, go back on mute. It kind of helps cut down on background noise that can interfere with the sound and cause people to not be able to hear the chat as well as we would like. And what else? Oh, we've got a couple slides with questions that you guys have submitted prior to today's chat. We'll go over those in a couple minutes, so that way you guys can take a screenshot if you want. That way you'll know what kind of questions are coming up. But please don't hesitate to ask questions either in the chat or on on audio if you would like to while Ronit is with us today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest, Ronit Bora-Hillel. Ronit is a Senior Director of Engineering at Smartsheet. She brings more than 20 years of engineering leadership within both corporate and startup companies. She has a strong understanding of how to connect business and product visions while building, leading, and enhancing software development groups to reach their objectives. Ronit came to the Seattle area to join Amazon in 2014, where she led Alexa's skill conversational tooling, Amazon's Choice, and other AI innovative initiatives. Prior to Amazon, she was a director of engineering at Conduit, an internet monetization company, and at TTI Telecom, where she led engineering for network performance and fault systems. Ronit is passionate about helping people reach their career goals, promoting women in engineering, and creating an inclusive work environment. She's a trained life coach and uses coaching at work and at home. In her free time, Ronit co-leads a meetup to empower Jewish professional women. She plays in a women's catchball league and enjoys the outdoors with her family. So welcome to Power to Fly, and thank you for joining us today, Ronit.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be with all of you today. And we are living in a really interesting time, times that are taken out of a kind of a sci-fi movie. And I think that having a platform like Power to Fly is almost envisioning the future. So I'm really happy that I have this opportunity to talk to everyone today. You read my resume. I joined Smartsheet about a little bit less than a year ago. And I'm really happy and excited to be part of Smartsheet. In this time and in general, taking our ability to support each other and help each other throughout our everyday and especially in these times. So I'm really happy and excited to be with you today.
Well, thank you for that. Let's see here. I'm going to put a link in the chat here so everybody can follow along. Before we get to our questions for today, I just want to call out for anybody that doesn't know, you can follow Smartsheet on Power2Fly. I'm going to put the link into the Zoom chat, so that way you can find them and find your way to their company page a lot easier. Just for anybody that doesn't know, you can follow Smartsheet to do a number of things, but basically the best reason that I can think of for following Smartsheet is if you are interested in working for them and don't see anything that's on their open jobs list that would be a good fit for you. Following Smartsheet puts you on their follow network. And so when talent advocates like people from Power2Fly or hiring managers from Smartsheet go on to fill new roles or go to look for new people to fill new roles they're about to post, following Smartsheet will both alert you when they post new roles, and also that follow network is what kind of tells like the talent advocates, hey, this is a person that's already interested in this company. So it makes you a much more, much more suitable prospect, and definitely somebody that they're gonna look at your qualifications more closely to see if you're a fit for anything that's open at Smartsheet. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'll throw the link up here, and you can feel free to follow them. It's also a good place to see all of their open positions. So throw that into the chat. And then, so these next two slides, feel free to grab screenshots if you'd like. I'll pause on this one and then I'll switch to the next one in a couple seconds. But basically, these are the questions that you have all pre-submitted prior to today's chat. So these are the questions that we've got prepped. And this way, if you take screenshots, then you'll kind of know what's coming down the list. It'll also help you know if maybe somebody else has already asked a question that occurred to you. But you can also, if you've got something that fits in with any one of these questions, feel free to call it out whenever you'd like. We want this to be a conversational, a conversational networking opportunity for all of us. So please feel free to participate. So I'm going to go to the next slide now. So hopefully you've grabbed your screenshots of this. Here's page 2 of your questions. So feel free to grab your screenshots now, and then I will flip to the first question and we will get started. All right, so Ronit, how do you create a purpose-driven career?
So this is actually a really great question, because the first question is, do you really want to create a purpose-driven career? I have just closed 20 years of career last year, and it's kind of been a point of thinking for me. And I found out that the first question we truly need to ask ourselves, do we want that purpose? Because having a purpose-driven career, having a purpose in life in general, require a lot from us. It actually requires us to get out of our comfort zone, drive things forward, make a lot of effort. I'll give you a fun example that from my life, and it's probably very relevant to a lot of you. How many of you kind of wanted always to lose a lot of weight? I gained about 30 pounds when I gave birth to my first kid, and I kept them for 11 years, going a little bit high and even a little bit down, but never actually getting rid of them. About a year ago, I made a purpose decision that I do want to change that, and I lost that 30 pounds, and I've been keeping that for a year. So, and it required a lot of effort and a lot of dedication, and a lot of changes in my life in order for that to happen. So the first question you need to ask yourself, are you willing to drive that purpose? Are you really wanting that, or is it just a nice thought you have in your mind? Once you pass that part, you need to think about what is that purpose, right? And also, what is the timeline for that purpose? If you look at our grandparents, right? Folks that were born 90 years ago, 80 years ago, or even more. They were born, and a lot of them just had a purpose in life. If their parents were a doctor, they became a doctor. If their parents were a carpenter, they became a carpenter. And their purpose in life was really clear. And it was clear that it would drive them for a very long while, through maybe their entire life. In our days, it's not so clear. I'm studying one thing, and I might change my way. I have one of my engineers actually changed their work for their career 3 times. So you need to figure out purpose in life mean for me 3 years, 5 years, 10 years forward. I wouldn't go further than that in our times. And I would allow myself to have revise and rethink that purpose in multiple points throughout your life. Then once you settle down and you know that you want a purpose in life and you have like this is my 5 years forward, ask yourself, what is that purpose? There's a lot of, it's very similar to defining a vision, a product vision. It's your life product, right? And it's your vision. So there are a lot of different tools that you can use to define your personal vision. And then make sure that you are truly motivated by that, that it's not just a shiny thing that seems fun. I want to be the president of the United States. It's actually something that you really want to accomplish and think you will enjoy being in that place once you get there. And the last thing you need to do is now build a path, right? And this is where you will talk through this, multiple question in the future, further in this conversation. How do you build that? How do you understand where you are now? How do you understand what's your strengths, your area of improvement? What are the things you already accomplished and you can use further? And also, what could be some intermediate goals along the way that by accomplishing them, you're making a huge step toward that purpose in life. And then defining goals, finding ways to follow with them, getting really good cadence throughout that, and revising them again and again. That's the process that you want to create. You can use mechanisms like OKRs to look at objective and key results that are really great, and we can talk about it further down the line as well. But find the mechanism that will help you systematically drive your career. Without that mechanism, the purpose remains a dream that would not be fulfilled.
No, I think that's a very good point. I mean, you're right when it comes to, I mean, even as far back as our parents even had definitely, there's more of a prevalence of people that kind of had their purpose either given to them or set up, in advance of them. And you're right. I mean, it's definitely something to consider if you really want a purpose, or if you're just kind of ready to dabble a little bit.
Yeah.
So we have our next question kind of dovetails a little bit with one that was asked in the chat. So I'm going to kind of call out the chat question and we'll see how it relates to the next one that's in our lineup. So Malika wants to know, she says, given that a lot of value of creating software comes from the domain that it applies to, what advice do you have on selecting a domain to focus on? Is this a valuable question to think about when planning your career?
So knowing technology, and just look at technology in the last 20 years, 10 years, it's evolving so fast. I would never imagine that I'll be doing AI in the previous 4 years. Or when I started my career, cloud was non-existing. I'm exaggerating. There were concepts like cloud, but no public cloud vendor was there. And you wouldn't think that all of us would be building software over either public or private clouds, right? So technology changes, your domain changes. And as an engineer, if you want to drive forward, you need to constantly learn. So I would look at the purpose more than just I want to be a cloud guru. I would look at a purpose in a higher level and say, I want to be a software engineer. I want to be an applied scientist. I want to spend the next 55 years getting to principal levels maybe, or to a very experienced level in them, and then leave the technology and domain as like more kind of a specific goals you're going to have along the way that will evolve and create your learning. And to answer the question here on the slide, where should someone start when they are setting goals for their career? You start with yourself. The best way to actually start with goals is to actually state, I know my purpose, so I define the end goal. Now, let's figure out where am I? Truly understand where I am today. This is a true retrospective of your life as it is. What's my strengths? What's my area of improvement? What have I accomplished professionally? What are my personal constraints? And then through those, understand, in order to get to that, direction forward, what could be the next year goals that I want to set? If you use a platform like OKRs, those would be your objectives. The 5 things you want to get throughout the year. And then you set a set of very specific goals. I call them the yellow brick road, like in the Wizard of Oz, because they are the actual steps that get you one step forward each time. So let's say you want to be a cloud guru this year, because that will allow you to get to be a principal engineer in 5 years. Make sure that my video come back. You already are an engineer for the last 5, maybe 7 years. You learned the multiple programming languages, you know, to build distributed system. And now what you're not really strong at is maybe one of the public cloud vendors platforms. And in order to be a cloud guru, you decided that this year you're going to focus on that. So now you'll define, you look at this year objective, and you mark yourself as objective as, I want to master storage level capability. I want to be giving a talk about this to my organization, demonstrating I can do this, and so on. So I could be both learning and demonstrating the knowledge and building something. So maybe your third one is about a system that you have built. And then through those, you define how would you measure success, right? How would you know that you're measuring success well? And you look at the parameters. So how many specific system services you already know, and how many of them do you want to accomplish in the next month, in the next quarter? So build yourself, start with the end goal, and then reflect on where you are, and start do the mapping of how between where you are and how to get there by setting up goals along the way.
Okay, so let's say that somebody, if one of their goals or one of their end results they're looking for is to transition to a new career. What type or types of goals does one set when that's when you're attempting to do? So it's kind of easier to see the more linear pathway if you're trying to stay kind of in your lane or follow a path that other people have taken before you. But what if you're looking at a situation that you don't really understand quite the roadmap of how to get there?
Yeah. So the first thing to do is to learn. It's actually to map the territory in a sense. Know your enemy in some sense. Understand what is that role. Read about it. Look at LinkedIn at different groups over there that are relevant for that role. Find people that you know or meetups that exist, and go there and learn first what does it mean to be in that role, and figure out if you want that. In my early days, I wanted to become an architect. I never done anything about it. And I didn't really know what is an architect except of meeting them from time to time when opportunity came throughout house renovations or building houses and stuff like that. So I spent about half a year learning that and kind of like taking different training and courses, and even applying to certain universities and moving through their application process. And through that phase, I actually understood that although it sounds really amazing, glamorous kind of occupation, it's not what I'm looking for. It's not what I want. So this process of really understanding what it is that other career mean is extremely important. A lot of time we have this vision in mind, but the reality, the day-to-day work that you'll be doing in that other career is different. For me, that was what drew me back from going to the architect direction and led me to software engineering and got me here. So that's the first thing. But now, once you know that, think about 3 elements. The first one is the professional one. What are the things you need to learn? If it's completely not related to what you are doing, you probably want to take maybe a year of some kind of professional courses, whether it's through a university or any professional courses that are official or official training for that. that might be a good way to do so. So you want to map that and understand how far is the gap. If you're a software engineer, for example, and you want to become a product manager, which is very common actually, then you must be very familiar with that role because you've been working with product management for many opportunities throughout your life cycle of development. So you would probably want to get a mentor that is a product manager and get their help in mapping the learning areas, and then see how much you can learn inside your company and how much you need to actually go and do outside and do some training outside. So look at the professional element. The second part is the personal. It's not the same thing being let's say a construction engineer and a software developer engineer, or a technical product manager, right? Or even a nurse. Like each one of them require a different set of skills from us. Some may be more compassionate and kind of people-oriented. The other ones need to demonstrate that you can learn by yourself. The other ones need some visual capability to visualize things at scale. So figure out where you are personally, what's your strengths, and then what does that other occupation require? Where is those gaps, and like what can you use out of your strengths to apply to that new role, and what are actually not there? And think about those really careful, because what makes us happy is what we're usually strong at. And if you're not strong at something, think about if doing that every day would make you happy. Okay, so again, it's always nice to chase shiny objects, but you always need to go back to yourself and say, am I gonna be happy about it? Because if you're not, it's not gonna last. You're not gonna be really successful in that. So go and understand, is this area is an area that I really wanna improve at, and I actually think it's very valuable for me, and that's a good exercise. Then the last one is the mental part. It's like your mental strengths. Making changes in life, regardless of what are those changes, is really hard. It requires you to move from your comfort zone to the unknown territory. Lots of unknown, lots of ambiguity in the same time. Find out how you can bring in this mental strength, whether you need supporters, people from your family, from your friend, people you really admire and want them to be your mentors around. Build that mental net of people around you that can help you, and make sure that you are supported in that path that you're taking.
Well, that's a really good point. And kind of trying to really assess these goals that we have to see if it's something that we're kind of chasing a pipe dream, or if we're honestly chasing something that will, give us some sense of accomplishment or some satisfaction. So while you're setting these goals, how do you know if you're setting the right goals? Is it just as simple as like kind of constantly recalculating or recalibrating, or is there like a feeling that you get when you're kind of on the right track? How do you go about doing this?
So it's actually a mix of both. I'll start with the second one. They need to feel right. They need to feel full energetic in their sense. They need to click for you. That's the first thing. If that is happening, this is probably a goal that you feel passionate about. It doesn't mean yet that this is the one that gets you to the right direction, but at least doing that goal would be something you'll enjoy, so you'll probably excel in doing so. So now if you take that and then you add to that this thinking about, is this goal an actual accelerator to where I want to get, and you look at that goal and you say, what am I getting out of that goal? Am I learning something that through this mapping that I've done from where I am to where I want to get, it will improve that? Am I learning something that is a really strong tool or experience that I really need in order to get to that purpose that I define? Ask yourself those questions, and use, a lot of time it's better even to have this mentor or somebody you trust that knows and and it knows that direction, that is there work in that field that you're aiming to, or is very up to date in that direction. So they could give you a mirror about, is it truly that, ask you those hard questions, force you to not make any excuses about why you're taking that or not. And then it's always about recalculating, because even when we're absolutely 100% sure that what we have taken as a goal is actually getting us there, it doesn't mean that it is. I'll give you an example from my life. About a year ago, I decided that it's time for me to look for a new job. And I wanted to move out of Amazon at that time and look for another opportunity. And I knew exactly what I want to do. I wanted to continue with my kind of AI direction. And that's what I wanted to do. And there was one company in place that I was aiming for, and I just wanted that. And I did a lot of work and set those goals around how do I get acquainted with people there? How do I get leads in that company? How do I create opportunities in that company, and so on. And after 3-4 months of doing so, and actually getting and talking to a lot of different people and creating those opportunities, I actually understood that I actually chose the wrong goal. If I want to get there, I shouldn't be putting goals just in one company, because I don't necessarily, I don't necessarily know that if that's the right one for me. I learned throughout that way that maybe, but not necessarily, I might be wanting to be open to other things. And then the other thing is that sometimes when you're creating too close of a goal, you're actually creating an obstacle for yourself. So after 3 months of going through this and then recalculating and rethinking, I actually completely changed the way I switched for work, and I expanded that to multiple areas and direction and more social. And then I created much more opportunities, and that actually made me rethink my first objective. Do I really want a role in AI? Is that what important to me? Or do I want a role in a company that I really would enjoy being a leader in? And I recalculated and changed that. So my initial goal was to make a change and move to another adventure in my technology career as a leader. That was my purpose. It wasn't about the AI element. And so when I recalculated 2 times, then I found my target, and I actually joined Smartsheet, and I made a decision out of several companies that I had in flight at the same time. So it's always about recalculating and rethinking. It's that feedback loop that helps us be very precise, and when we create really close feedback loop, it actually helps us change course and adjustment really quickly and get us back into the right track.
Okay, so just from a personal curiosity then, is it possible to go too vague with your purpose or with your goals? Or is it one of those situations where, like, if you start off really vague, that's fine, but as you get further along the planning aspects, you're going to be sort of forced to get more specific and get, kind of more granular?
So you cannot go wrong with the purpose going too big. Again, the purpose can be gigantic. It could be, again, becoming the president of the United States, or becoming an astronaut. The goal, the purpose could be gigantic. The goal should be very precise. The goal should be smart. If you guys are familiar with the SMART aspect, they need to be very specific. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? They need to be measurable, meaning you can understand, you have some kind of a key performance indicator that help you measure your success and also your progress through the achievement of that goal. They need to be achievable. If you put something that is not achievable, exactly as you asked, could it be big, you're gonna be discouraged. If you put, for example, if I put as a goal to myself that I am, let's say I wanna be running for Congress now as the goal, it's not realistic whatsoever for me. But if the goal would be, I want to be involved in the closer political arena in Washington. Okay, that's getting better, not yet precise enough. Now let's aim for, I want to be running for the city council in Redmond. now I'm more specific. Now this is something I can actually do and aim for. So you need to make sure that those goals are achievable, because otherwise you are not going to get them and you are not going to get to your purpose. The other part, they need to be relevant. So if I wanted to be a CEO of a company, setting a goal of learning to write software doesn't necessarily will get me there. It will get me to other direction. It will get me to be maybe a distinguished engineer in time, but not necessarily the CEO of the company, right? And then it needs to be time bound. So goals, I actually recommend to look at goals at a monthly and no later than a quarterly basis. If they are more than a quarterly, they are probably too big, and you want to start cutting them down to multiple stages and define those goals along the way.
Okay, thank you. That was actually really helpful. All right, so for our next question, how do you ensure alignment of goals and priorities in both the engineering and product org?
So this is taking us a little bit out of our personal career into our day-to-day work. I like to look at product and engineering as a couple, as an engaged couple who vowed for life that they will be living together in harmony. And if that's not the case in your organization, find a way to make that better, even a little bit. I love engaging with my product. I love thinking with my product. I love getting my product involved in every day, in every aspect of the engineering challenges, as much as I love to be involved in the product challenges. We are both together committed for delivery. So if we are not going to be working extremely closely together, I don't think we can be truly successful. It would be, you'll end up in an organization that this division is very kind of very clear, and those two teams are working really apart. What I've noticed is, and I've worked in those organizations as well, is what I notice is that you end up having product kind of sending really high things, or they are detached with the challenges of what the product are, what the engineering are experiencing, and the same on the side of the engineering. The engineers become detached from the customer needs. They don't really understand what is driving that direction, and then the quality of the product are not necessarily driven well or driven quickly in that direction. So it might take several iterations to get there. So my recommendation is, if you can, have product as part of your Scrum or part of your Agile process. Have the product engineering sit together. Be in daily stand-ups with each other. Make sure that product can have multiple leadership levels. So make sure that you and your counterpart product are syncing with leadership on a regular cadence on the direction of where you both are taking the product and engineering direction. And make sure that this communication is really clear, so if leadership has something to contribute in terms of product engineering, they can. So monthly basis, or finding that cadence, finding time to do dive deeps, talk about vision. Once a year, stop and think about your objective and goals, whatever mechanism you're using. At Smartsheet, we use OKRs, and we are learning and experimenting with that. But then constantly, every quarter, iterate and think about whether the goals that you both set together are the right ones, and are they getting to you to the right direction. So I would start with the personal relation and making the teams have kind of joint processes, product of engineering together on the day-to-day, whether it's the Scrum, the stand-ups and so on, sitting together. Then I'll move to something in a cadence of kind of a monthly reviews, or with leadership, or quarterly review with leadership. Again, depends on your organization. I'll make sure that any vision or goals are worked together as a joint effort between product and engineering. Usually those are led by product, but engineering is not partnering them. And then once a year, sitting about and discussing and setting together the yearly goals and making sure that you are reviewing them along the year on a regular cadence.
Okay, so along those same lines, when you're talking about kind of setting your goals and then evaluating and then reevaluating, this person wants to know, what are some strategies I can use to evaluate various opportunities against my long-term goals? And I feel like this would be particularly kind of like not panic inducing, but a little bit worrisome if if you don't have your goals or your purpose set in stone, right?
Yeah, so there are two aspects. One situation is where you have a purpose and you truly believe that this is what you want to do. Maybe a 5-year purpose doesn't need to be, as I said, a lifelong purpose, but a 5-year purpose that that you like to accomplish, that you feel very complete with that choice. In this case, you should look at on various opportunity the same as we look at business opportunities. So let's say if our company had like this 5-year vision of where the company wanted to head, and along the way different opportunities came along. For example, acquiring another company, or entering another market, or pursuing a certain big customer, right? It's the same for you. Should I take that new role that I'm proposed to take? Should I actually learn and invest a year now in learning something? Or should I find a way to be involved in leading the team and spend time in kind of leadership element? So those are opportunities that come across your way sometimes that you want to consider, should you do them, because they actually require a lot of effort and sometimes a lot more longer terms commitment, not just a week or 2 or months, maybe a half a year or a year commitment. The way that you can do that is even using a simple SWOT analysis. Like SWOT is for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. Starting with your strengths. What are the strengths that you have? What are the strengths that you'll be using in that opportunity? And what are the strengths that you will be needing to reach your purpose? How much are those aligned, right? The other part is weaknesses. What are your areas of improvement? What are the weaknesses that you have to fulfill that part? The areas of improvement that will be challenged through that opportunity, and how much they are aligned with your purpose, the areas that you need to improve to fulfill your purpose. So you'll know how much of that muscles that you need to build, you're actually building through that opportunity. The external ones are around opportunity. So when you look at that opportunity, what is in that opportunity bring you closer to your purpose? Is it aligned? Does it line in that direction? Does it take one of the kind of the goals that you had in mind and kind of fulfill that, right? And then threats. What are what in that opportunity actually could divert you from that destination that you want to reach? Where does this opportunity can actually take time out of the valuable time you have and actually direct it to different direction? And when you do this mapping, and you can do that on a 4 square, you'll start see crossing of things. And ideally you want to be in a place where there is really you're using a lot of your strengths, and this opportunity is aligned with the direction of your purpose. You're stretching yourself in the same way that you wanted to stretch yourself and building the right muscle with the area of improvement. And then there's really few threats. There are really few things that are moving you away from the direction that you want to head to.
All right, so this next one is a little bit more specific, but this person wants to know, what advice do you have for getting manager buy-in for your goals? Yeah,
again, it depends on your manager and your company, but I'll say that in general and give a couple of examples. So your manager want to be successful. your manager wants your team to be successful. So the best way to get your manager buy-in without any asking for him to be just a humanistic person is to be aligned with both of those, or at least one of those. How are your goals helping your team? How are your goals helping your manager to become successful? And this is really important because in some cases you build a trust with your manager, and because this trust is deep and your relationship are deep, your manager is willing to actually lean in and actually let you drive this goal forward, even though it's not necessarily have an immediate or maybe midterm contribution to the team or to himself. If you build that relationship, you are on the right track anyway, and that's awesome. So build on that and have like a very candid conversation with your manager. So about what you plan to do, what's the timeline for that, how much of your time it's gonna take, and how would that impact the area. If you haven't built that relationship with your manager, go back to advice number one. How can my goal contribute to the team and to the manager? And that's truly critical and to have in mind. So I'll give you an example from my career. In early stages, I learned software engineering, and I started my career as a software engineer. And I was really curious. I did a lot of backend development, building really low-level software in those days, writing assembly code, C codes for all of those engineers listening. And I really wanted to go out and do some front-end development, build UIs, understand how distributed UI are working, but it was not necessarily in that immediate scope of my team. So I socialized around other part of this big project that I was in, other teams around it. And I learned what they are doing, and I found a way that I can actually use both. And I shared with my manager that I want to learn this front-end tooling and distributed development in front-end, and I want to learn that by building a simulation for avionic maps. That was our area. We were doing avionic applications. And I told him that by me building that simulation, we would actually be able to better test our backend code. And I told him that I'll need about half a year to learn. I shared with him who would be my mentor to do so. And he approved that mentor. He really appreciated it. I knew that he would really appreciate that mentor. And he gave me his blessing. I signed myself to training, learning some Windows, some Windows technology available that day. It was really, really long time ago. And I did that training, and I worked with my mentor, and I actually built that simulation. And my manager was really excited about that. And my team was using that, and not just my team, the other sister teams we had were using that. And what made me so proud about it is that like 3 years after that, somebody called me, and I was already long in another company, and said, how do I do that in your simulator? And I found awesome, like they're still actually using that. So if you can find ways that you can contribute and help your team, help your areas, and align that with your goals, you got a winner. And then you don't need to even build upon like the close relation you created with your manager.
All right. So you've been sharing some really great insights from your own career with us, and this one also hits kind of close to home. This person wants to know, have you ever faced imposter syndrome during your career? And if so, how were you able to overcome it?
I meet so many people that are asking me that question, and I must say that I think that I'm meeting that almost every day. I'm asking my question every day. We always have, especially as women, that feeling that we are not good enough, that we are not doing something good enough, that we don't have enough knowledge, and we doubt ourselves so many times. I spent a big chunk of my kind of mid-career throughout like stages where I was already a manager, even a director of engineering. And you know, I moved from being day-to-day engage with writing code, creating designs, learning technology, to running large team at scale. And suddenly I couldn't invest that amount of time. And the other thing that happened to me in the same time is that I started to have a family. I have 3 kids. They take a lot of my time. So moving both to a position that did not require me to learn technology and work in the details of technology on a daily basis, plus the fact that my personal time was now filled with a lot of home stuff that I needed to take care of, caused me to doubt myself. Am I really up to speed? Am I technical enough as an engineering manager? Should I actually stay at that role, or should I move to another, like be a technical project manager or product manager, and not being an engineer because I don't have that amount of time? And I used to find myself constantly comparing myself to peers, other engineers, engineering managers that are usually were men, and that apparently have a little bit more time. But I found a lot of time that first, they not necessarily know more than myself. It's just an illusion, and they might sound more confident, but they not necessarily know more. So that built a little bit of my confidence that I probably know the same as they do. And the other part that helped me is the fact that I looked at what are my strengths, and is my strength serving my team, and acknowledging that my strengths are actually providing other values as well to my team. It has helped me to be in reconciliation with that part of, am I serving my team well enough? What is the technical level that I need to be in? And is it the only thing that is important? And the answer was no. It's actually, as a manager, it's actually multiple things that needs to come in place. And if there is areas that I feel not confident enough, then I should spend time learning them. And I should always have in my schedule to learn technology if that's not the thing that I'm writing, that I do every day by writing code or creating design. So now I have a block in my time, a weekly block for kind of weekly learn, where I spend time either reading design or reading technology. From time to time, I kind of look at what are the areas that I have gaps. So for example, we are doing a big lift and shift to the AWS cloud nowadays. So I decided that although I work in Amazon and I know a lot of the services that Amazon have, I want to know them in more detail than I know today. So I signed up for online training on that. So find a balance. You know your strengths and acknowledge that you bring a lot more other things to the game that actually, when you look at yourself holistic, this is where you are actually bringing that value in.
Thank you. That's actually, that's a very good point to make, is that people can seem like they know more than you do, but it might just all be, a better delivery or, a more confident tone or something like that. But I think you're right. I think it is important to focus on what you already know and then make sure that you're still continuously learning. This next question is kind of along the same vein. This person wants to know, how do you assess when you're being too assertive or not assertive enough? And obviously, this can be highly dependent on the situation, but let's stick to in a business situation.
So yeah, in a sense, in a personal situation, when you think about your goals, you should be very assertive. Otherwise, you're not going to fulfill the goals. But in a kind of business situation where you are in a meeting, for example, how do you know you're being too assertive and not assertive enough? You know that you are being too assertive if you're getting signals from others that you're not listening. I'll give you an example from this week. I was in a meeting and we talked about our yearly OKRs, our yearly objective and key result, and we talked about how we actually going to follow them throughout the year. And I felt that we are missing something there, and I stated that I think we are missing and we should add something to that process. Other managers around, the first signal I got from my manager where he was politely not agreeing with me. And then I continued. So I been assertive about it and explain again in another way why I think it is. But then I get another reply from another manager, and another manager, again, very politely telling me that they see why it's not the right way. So that's the point of time that I kind of regroup and stop for a minute to think, look back, go up to the balcony and look at your reaction and behavior, and stop and say, what's the right thing? What are they telling me, the people around me, that I'm not listening? What is the thing that I'm missing, maybe the opinion there that I'm missing that for other people are seeing and I'm not? So I make that stop and I listen. And I noticed what they were saying. They were saying that they want to give freedom to the teams themselves to run at that level. And I respected that and accepted that and agreed. So when you're being too assertive, you'll start getting signals. If you are put in blindfold, you'll miss those signals. You continue hard and you'll be creating damage to yourself, to the environment. You'll create trust relation problems. But if you stop for a minute and examine, then you can figure out what needs to be your reaction in the next step. Not being assertive is also not good, because not being assertive meaning that you are shying away from expressing your opinion and your thought, and you're actually holding back from the others, from the team, and maybe that holding back could make the team more successful. So not being too assertive is where you said something and nobody picked it up and you didn't follow that forward. When nobody picked it up, it might mean that they were in the midst of conversing on another thing. It doesn't need necessarily to be in a specific meeting. It could occur a long time. You can try again. You can pick a friend or a manager or a viewer in that situation and ask them, what do you think about my idea? Is it worthwhile? If you're a little bit of an introvert person, that would probably be your preferred way. Kind of talk with another person in your team and share with them, this is my thought. Do you think it's valuable for the team? And build on that and build your trust in yourself over kind of getting some of that echoing of acknowledgement in more of a one-on-one situation. But if you are having enough confidence and you are an extrovert, just pitch that another time, maybe 2-3 minutes along, or when the topic raises again. So think about the balance between too assertive, not too assertive. Both of them are not a good place to be in, not to yourself and not to your team. And find a way to get out of that, either by going to the balcony and thinking about what's the message that you're getting and listening, or by pitching in again or getting feedback from others to understand if you're on the right direction.
Okay, so kind of striking that good balance between, you know, too much and not enough, but still making sure that you're actually actively listening to people and really processing the feedback that they're giving you. So this person wants to know, how can one switch job functions effectively? How do you get opportunities or tasks for your wannabe job function while staying true to your current job function?
So there are a couple of ways to do that, but also you need to be very candid about whether it's the statement of staying in your current job function is cannot really happen, right? It only can partially happen, and I'll explain. So the ideal stage of making a role change is where you are in a team. They really appreciate you, your manager appreciates you, you're in a really good place. And now you want to do another thing. So let's say you have been I'll give you an example from one of the folks that I've been managing. They wanted to be, they have been a technical project managers, and they wanted to be an engineering manager. So we worked together. He has been at that function and supported them, and they were supporting the team, and they were doing a really good job. And through that, now they came and stated that now I want to be an engineering manager. So in that in that transition, what I could do is I could start creating challenges that are more oriented to people management. Give them a smaller task force to manage and deliver, but while they're still in that role. So if the role that you're in and the target role that you want to head to are not that far away, they are in the same family or they exist in the same space, and you've proven yourself and you got the trust of your manager, then it becomes possible. You can work with your manager on defining those challenges and goals in the next half a year to actually accomplish some of the skill set that are required in that new job that you are targeting. I would not do that more than half a year. After half a year, that should be an agreeable moment of time between you and your manager where you fully transfer to that next role. Either in your team, if your team can facilitate, or by moving to another team that have a full-time position open in that direction. So that's the best way to do that. And sometimes it requires you some planning. So let's say you know today that you want to move to a different role, but in your core area, you don't think it's possible. So you might want to make a shift to a different area, spend a year there, a longer period of time, and doing something really well, and then come to that manager in that area and say, here's what I want to do, can you help facilitate that? That's another strategical option, because not always do we have that opportunity where we are in. The hardest way to do a role change is to completely do that by moving to a different company, moving to different areas. Usually those are possible if you have done, so a classical one is I'm doing my MBA and then I'm moving to be a product manager or business leader. I've been a business manager and I do that through my learning.
Okay, so we've got about 3 minutes left here. I wanted to make sure we called out this slide here. I apologize, I should have put this up further when you were discussing kind of your goal setting path. But I wanted to put this up now so everybody has an opportunity to screenshot it if they'd like. But it's a really nice graphic that kind of drills out a little bit more concretely what Ronit was talking about kind of for today's whole chat. So is there anything else that you wanted to say about this?
Yeah, it's look at that as a mechanism, right? You understand where you want to head, you understand where you are now, you set those two sides, help you set the goals, and you constantly review and revise, going back and saying, is that the right one? And if so, if not, what should be my next goals? And again, you ask yourself the question, where am I today? And then set your goals. So it's a constant circle of learning and evolving and eventually getting to where your goal is. You can also allow yourself to question that goal, from time to time. It's really healthy to do that at least once a year when you're thinking about that. One thing about when you're defining that career objective, and that's will be kind of the last thing, one really, really good technique that I've learned is to write a letter to yourself as if you were in that future, and write that letter in a present tense. Amazon used to do that as PRFAQ when you write kind of the direction of the product. I see that really valuable when you do so on your career objective and your path. Write that as you accomplish and how that future is existing in the present. It will make it easier for you to accomplish that future.
Okay. So for our last minute and a half we've got here, first off, I do want to thank Ronit for joining us today, and I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to spend with us. I know that Smartsheet is hiring, so Ronit, can you tell us a little bit about the positions that you're looking for and your favorite part about working at Smartsheet?
Sure. So we are looking, I'm part of the engineering team, and we are looking for actually engineers in multiple disciplines, both front-end engineer, back-end engineer, from beginner and entry levels all the way up to principal engineers. We're also looking for strong leaders in director level to join us and help us lead the revolution that we are doing. In addition to that, we are looking for really strong UX designers. Those are the partners, the UX designers and the product are really strong partners that we need along the way to create successful products. So that's a little bit about what we are looking. What I love about Smartsheet is actually based in our core company values. We have 3 values that I love: supportive, authentic, and honest. And it means that you can bring yourself to work. It means that your peers want you to be successful and will help you get there. We are not necessarily a company of consensus. We are delivering results and we are driving forward, but we would do so while helping each other. And I love that atmosphere about Smartsheet.
Excellent. So do you have any tips for anybody who's interested in applying? I know that one of the more popular ones that I definitely, I'm going to repeat till I'm blue in the face, is to make sure you follow Smartsheet on Power2Fly. And you can also apply to all of those open roles that we have drilled out there. You can apply to those all through Power2Fly.
Yeah, one last tip is try the product, play with the product and see how much you like it. Because if you want to apply, we want people that feel really passionate about driving tools in scale in the cloud that can make a difference for running program projects and processes. And we really want you to be engaged and inspired.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Roni, for taking time out of your day to join us. I really, really appreciate you, spending your afternoon with us.
Thank you so much for allowing me that.
All right. Don't forget, everybody, if you'll be getting a link to today's recording in the next couple days. There's also a survey we ask that you take. And that's it for us today. So thanks for joining us and have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.